So, today we're going to talk about why the clutch feels impossible. So, picture this, you're at a junction, cars are stacking up behind you, the light goes green, you ease out the clutch, give it some throttle, the engine dies. Dead, just gone. And now you're sitting there, 6 cars deep, frantically stabbing at the starter, face burning, praying the bike fires up before someone leans on their horn. Yeah, that was me more than once, and it's been everybody. Everybody gets the same experience with this one. And if that's been you, you're in exactly the right place. So let's talk about the clutch, because I really believe it's the thing that trips up more new riders than anything else. Not because it's impossibly hard, but because nobody explains it in a way that actually makes sense when you're sat on a bike in traffic for the first time. And I'm going to try and change that today. So first, that junction moment I just described, I want you to stay with it for a second, because I think it's worth unpacking why it feels so catastrophic when it happened. When I used to stall mine, I'm talking about the first proper stalls, not the training car park stalls, but the real one on a real road with people in cars all around you watching. I think I forgot how to breathe for about 4 seconds. Everything just contracted. And at that moment of panic, I did exactly the wrong things. I rushed to restart, released the clutch too fast to prove I was fine, and I stalled it again, twice at the same junction, possibly more than that. There was a woman in the car behind me, and I looked round, and she gave me a thumbs up, which honestly was worse than a horn. The reason it happens is not that you're bad at riding, it's just that the clutch on a motorcycle is doing something counterintuitive. And this needs explaining properly what that thing is. So let me do that now. I want you to think about a volume dial on an old radio, not a button, not a switch, a dial, the kind that you turn slowly and the sound comes up gradually. There's a sweet spot in the middle of that rotation where it goes from quiet to properly loud. And if you move it carefully enough through that zone, you get exactly the volume you want. Well, that's the clutch. The friction zone, I've mentioned this before in a couple of other videos. You might have heard that term. It's just the name for the middle part of the dial's travel. It's the range of movement where the engine starts talking to the back wheel. And that's where power begins to flow. It's not a fixed point, it's the kind of zone, a band. And learning to feel where it starts and ends on your specific bike is genuinely what most of clutch control is all about. So here's where people go wrong, including me, obviously, from my example, for an embarrassingly long time. When I started riding, I treated the clutch like a light switch. It was either in or it was out. I'd pull it all the way back to the bar, do whatever I needed to do, and then release it. And I'd release it like I was flicking a switch. Fast, decisive, done. And the bike hates you for that. Because what a light switch doesn't have is that middle zone. A light switch goes from off to on with a click. And there's nothing in between. But the clutch, the friction zone, lives entirely in that in-between space, and that's where the magic happens. That's where you control how smooth power reaches the wheel. When you release the clutch fast, you skip the friction zone and you go straight from disconnected to fully connected in a split second. And the engine goes from turning freely to being asked to move the entire weight of the bike and rider in one lurch. And if your revs aren't perfect, and they never are, not early on, the engine says no and it stalls. So the mental shift I needed, and the one I'd love to try making right now, is this. The clutch is not a switch, it's volume dial. And when you're moving off, your only job is to find the bottom of that dial sweet spot. Hold it there for half a second while the bike settles. Then slowly, slower than you think, continue turning it up till you're fully in. That's it, the whole thing. The rest is just repetition and practice until your left hand does it automatically. But here's the bit that actually turns it into muscle memory, because I can talk about volume dials all day and it won't help really unless you go and practice. So find a car park, an empty one. One early Sunday morning is ideal before the world wakes up. Not a tight one with bollards everywhere, just a flat open space where you can travel in a straight line for 20 or 30 metres without worrying about anything. And this is the drill that you're going to do. You're going to ride at a walking pace, slower than feels comfortable, the kind of pace where you could genuinely walk alongside yourself. So we're talking about 4 or 5 miles an hour. And you're going to stay at that pace for the full length of the car park, entirely using the friction zone to control your speed, not the throttle, not the brake, just the clutch. Find the point where the clutch starts to bite. Feel the bike just barely starting to pull. Hold it there. Let it creep forward at walking speed. Then squeeze back slightly until it slows again. Then ease it out again, back and forth, gently in that zone, all very slowly. The key to the clutch is doing things slowly and progressively. It's going to feel weird. It's going to feel like you're doing something wrong because the engine now will be a bit unhappy and the bike will feel almost reluctant. That's normal. You're using the clutch as a speed control tool in a way that wasn't really designed for, but it's the best way I know of to build the feel where that friction zone lives. Do that for 20 minutes, not 20 days, 20 minutes, and your left hand will know something it didn't know before. The next time you pull away at a junction, that knowledge is in your hand, not just in your head. That's the muscle memory, right? And that's the only place it's any use to you. So the next point, which is quite important, I want to talk about why the clutch might feel completely different on your mate's bike or the bike you trained on or any other bike other than yours. Because something that you never get told, the clutch feel varies enormously between bikes, enormously. A 125 from a budget manufacturer, Chinese bike, might have a clutch that engages about 3 millimeters from the bar. A big adventure bike like a GS might have a long progressive engagement that starts halfway through the lever travel. Some clutches are light as a feather, some are stiff enough to genuinely tear your hand out in city traffic. If you trained on one bike and then bought a different bike, you didn't suddenly get worse. The clutch is just in a different place. That friction zone starts and ends somewhere different, and your hand just hasn't got used to it yet. This is why the parking lot practice and drill is specific to your bike. You're not trying to learn how clutches work in general. You're training your left hand to know exactly where this friction zone is on your machine at that moment. So when you change bikes, you'll need to recalibrate, but that calibration gets faster every time because you know what you're looking for. You'll find this with cars. If you're a car driver, you move from one car to another, or you hire a van to do something, and the clutch and controlling that vehicle is different. But usually after a few minutes, you're into it and you're away, and that's what it's going to be like with the bike. So let me bring this home because I know some of you are watching this thinking, right, that all makes sense, but I've been at it for 3 weeks now and I still keep stalling and I'm starting to wonder if I'm not cut out for this. Well, you are cut out for this. It's just practice. The clutch is one of those skills that doesn't improve in a straight line. You'll practice it and it won't seem to be getting any better. Then one day it'll just click, literally, and you won't even notice. It'll just happen. You'll pull away from a junction. It'll be smooth. You'll think, oh, did I just do that? And you'll do it again and again. On the next junction, it'll be smooth again. And that's when you realise your left hand got there before your brain did. That moment is coming, I promise you. It came for me, it comes for everybody. Even after an embarrassing number of stalled junctions and at least one very patient queue of cars, it came for every rider I know. But I don't want to be straight with you here. It comes from doing it, not from reading about it or watching these videos about it. I'm useful for helping you to understand what to practice. Your left hand has to actually go practice it. So get your helmet on, get your gear on, go and find somewhere quiet to practice. Car park, 20 minutes, walking pace, friction zone. That's the homework. And next time you stall at a junction, you're not failing. This happens to everybody. You're still in the learning process, and that comes over time. So it'll click in the end. So go ride and stay safe. See you in the next video. So if this advice has been useful, why not buy the book? It's only a few quid on Amazon. It's called Learn to Ride a Motorbike, Real Answers for New Riders. Good luck, stay safe. Link in the description.